Hello and welcome to another episode of Toxic Love Transformation. I am your host, Stephanie McPhail. And for today, we're doing something a little bit different. I wanted to change the direction a little bit of what we're sharing here on this podcast because the last season we really focused on women who have been successful in other parts of their lives and they've overcome these toxic relationships. They're on the other side and they've learned a lot. What I'd like to do this time around is we're going to be starting to focus a little bit more on people that are still in it, because I think that when we're in it, it's hard sometimes to see what it's like to get through and get over to the other side. So I am so excited to have our first guest for this new series, Nikki. Welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me on.
So we got to chat a few days ago, and I really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with all of us. We got to
Mhm.
chatting a few days ago. Now, you are a business owner, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Cool. And so you are someone, you are successful, you're doing really well. And it sounds like some of the things that have been going on is you've been great with career and business, but maybe not so much in relationships. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I've had the most horrible divorce, and last year I had a boyfriend and then broke up with him, and he wanted to remain friends, but the friendship has been very tumultuous. So right now I'm on the brink of trying to decide what to do because it's just not working for me. But I seem to only be attracting the same kind of people. Yeah, I really need to set another course and get my personal life back on track.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I bet that resonates for a lot of people who are listening, because even for myself, I was someone who used to choose the wrong partners and then do everything to try to make it work also. So would you
Mhm.
say, so this is something from, you said, we're saying when we talked that this is something that you feel has been going on since even childhood.
Oh, yeah. So my mom was a classic narcissist. Um, so she would deliberately put me in wooden shoes. So when I was walking around, you could hear the tapping of my shoes, and people would hear that sound and like, where's this sound coming from? And then they would see me like, oh, this cute little blonde girl. Where's your mommy? And then she would be like, oh, yes, my daughter. And she would get all the attention until the age where I could still sit in her lap. So around 4 or 5, maybe 6. She was a very doting mom. She wouldn't let me out of her sight. I needed to be by her side all the time. I wasn't allowed to play with any kids my own age. And then as soon as I became too big to sit on her lap, she lost interest and she would literally lock me away in my room. And yeah, my father was always quite withdrawn, and as soon as I was older than maybe 4 or 5 years, he moved to the background. I think it was probably because he didn't want to make my mom jealous. So my father was, yeah, was always ignoring me. And then at one point, my mom did so as well until I became an adult. And then she started to become really demanding of my time and wanted me to come over all the time. And if I didn't pick up the phone, why didn't you pick up the phone? What were you doing? Who were you with? Those kind of things. So,
Did you feel, so she was always really controlling?
yes.
And dad, so did you get to have much of a relationship with dad at all? Was he just completely like physically there but not emotionally there at all?
Yeah, up until I was around age 6, we would hang out together, just him and me. And then after that, it just suddenly stopped. And then they both lost interest in me and just felt that I should entertain myself. So I was mostly just reading books because there wasn't really much else to do because there were no kids my own age that lived in the street and I couldn't go out by myself anyway. So I was just reading always to kill time because no one really spent much attention on me.
That sounds very isolating.
Oh, yeah, it was.
And books, it's great that you read all the books, but then there's the real life also that you missed out on because you weren't getting the attention from your parents that are supposed to be the ones giving you and showing you the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I did grow up with three older brothers, but I was adopted as a baby. My mom told a friend that she always wanted to have a little girl because she saw the women magazines with the moms, with the girls, and they're all dressed the same. And she had that kind of image. That's what I want.
Mhm.
Her friend was writing a PhD article on adoption and adoption procedure and how things were going and what they could improve on the procedure, what would be better for the child.
Mhm.
So she said, I have all these contacts, I can hook you up, so to speak. And that was the late 70s. So it was it's like easier than getting a puppy. So basically, they showed her this room with all these babies, and the lady just went, okay, which one do you want? Just pick one. And then they were like, oh, you have three older children that are still alive. Okay, we trust you with this baby. Here you go.
Wow.
Have at it. And we'll come by twice to make sure she's still alive and well fed. And if that's the case, then we're fine with it.
Wow. Wow. And interesting that she wanted a daughter so badly, but it sounds almost like the one of the typically like narcissistic things is to want have the idea of a person but not actually want them to be a person. Like you're not allowed to have your own thoughts or feelings or anything else. You just need to be exactly who I want you to be. And if you're not that person, I'm going to be mad at you.
Exactly. That was exactly like it. When there were people over, then she was dragging me around and showing me to everyone, and I had to hug people I didn't know or kiss them or give them a hand or whatever. And then when there was no one there, I was a nuisance, and she would just lock me away in my room, like, oh, you go play by yourself. I need to clean the house. I have stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and my older brothers. So basically, when my youngest brother became 10 years old, my mom told him, we're going to adopt this baby, but the baby is going to be there a few days before your birthday. We can either let the baby come on this date or we can do it after your birthday. But she was really pressuring him to say, no, it's fine. And then later, I heard from my other brother that he basically always held me accountable for the fact that I took over his position in the family because up until then, he was always the little prince. And suddenly there was me, and it was his 10th birthday, and I was grabbing the spotlight, and no one had any attention for him anymore. Yeah, all of my life, he basically resented me for that.
Yeah. And that's hard because you had nothing to do with any of that. That wasn't your fault.
Yeah, exactly. And also really unfair of my mom to pressure him into saying, yes, it's fine.
Yeah.
He was only 10. He can't make that decision.
No, nor should he have even been talked to about that decision. Like it's just there's a baby coming. This is when the baby's coming. Not even try to make him feel responsible for any of that. Now,
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder, so one of the things that's really interesting that I've found with these successful women that are in these kinds of relationships that have had these kinds of experiences is that we try to go and use the outlet of school, of education, learning, doing better for ourselves. It's this weird good side effect of
Mhm.
being mistreated and not having the emotional connection that we needed as children, not having that kind of support. I wonder if that was something for you. Did you do well in school and like how is it like for you growing up in that sense?
I am the only person in my family that went to university. One thing that my father drilled into me, he said, you should never be dependent on someone.
I love
So I
that.
want you to do well in school. I want you to get an education. I want you to get a good job. If ever you are in a relationship that you don't like, then it's easy for you to get out of because you have something to fall back on. That was like always going through my mind. But yeah, I was very motivated to get an education and finish school and get a good job and all of that.
Yeah, which is great. It's great that he said
Mhm.
that. That's something that for me was always really important is I want to be able to take care of myself so that I don't have to rely on anybody. But then the
Mhm.
interesting thing is because so what happens is we do really well in school, we're very successful, we do all that kind of stuff, but then there is this deeper wound of not feeling good enough because we have not gotten the attention that we needed growing up. So then it's when we do start looking for relationships, we tend to look for those types of relationships where it reiterates that feeling of not being good enough, where we have to prove
Yes.
ourselves. So we keep reliving the proving ourselves in relationships. Does that sound
Yeah,
accurate?
I can really, yeah, oh my God, that that I can really relate to that so much.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's those core wounds. It's the core wounds from childhood of feeling like we have to prove ourselves. And again, when they're completely pulling themselves away, then all we want to do as kids is to be seen, hang out with me, spend time with me, do things with me. And so that little girl inside of you is still doing that in relationships moving forward. So we have to work through that part of feeling good enough. And again, it's so weird because, like, on the outside, people are like, yeah, but look at how successful you are. Look at the great things that you're doing. But inside, we're still trying to prove ourselves to other people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always in a fight mode. I'm always like, okay, I've made this much money this month, so I have to do double the work next month to get even more. And it's never enough. Like I've never proven myself. I never feel I can be satisfied with what I've achieved.
And who do you feel like you're proving yourself to?
But yeah, the outside world, I just want people to love me and appreciate me and see me and acknowledge me. And yeah, I guess that's what I'm lacking in my life. And that's why I always feel like it's not enough.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That really makes a lot of sense. So you started out by saying, and when we were talking before we did the show, and you were telling me how you ended the relationship, but you're still trying to be friends with this ex. And I was like, oh, we have to talk about this because this is such a common thing with so many people that I talk to, where even if they're dating and they're like, oh, I'm dating, I met a guy, he's nice, but he's not really someone I want to date. I want to still be friends. And I'm like, why would you want to be friends with someone that you're not interested in, like that was supposed to be an intimate relationship and it's not? And it seems to be a really common thing with women is that we want to still be friends with our exes or people that we're not really interested in. And so do you want to tell me a little bit about that? So you're still talking to him now, you're in business together, that's part of the issue.
Yeah, that was the plan. So we've done a lot to prepare, but he didn't pay for anything. I've paid for everything so far.
Mhm.
So all he has given is his time and he helped me with the ideas, but it's my contacts, it's my money, it's most of it is mine. But in any case, yeah, so he would sometimes disappear for like a whole weekend, and then I wouldn't get to speak to him at all. And then after a whole weekend, like 3 or 4 days, suddenly he would pop up and pretend like nothing happened. And that happened a few times. And I told him, like, oh, I don't think I can be with someone that is like that, that just suddenly disappears. And then I shouldn't ask any questions. I shouldn't be worried. And I should just be okay with that.
Mhm.
And then it happened again. So I said, yeah, I think maybe we should end it. And then we talked about it, and he was like, okay, so this is the end of the relationship. And then later I was like, okay, so I may have been a bit rash. If this is something you can work on, then we can maybe still be together. But then he was like, oh no, there's no way back for me. Once you said it's over, it's really over, and I wouldn't even consider it. So for a while, I still tried to prove myself and prove that I would be a good girlfriend and that we could still be together and that I wanted to make things up and that kind of thing. So that was super frustrating. But then I settled into the idea like, okay, let's be friends. But basically, he is always getting into trouble. He always has things going on, like he doesn't have enough money or he spends it on the wrong things. So I'm always giving him money. I'm always bailing him out. He will ask me, oh, okay, can you pick me up at 7 in the morning because I need to go to the hospital and things like that. But whenever I tell him what my needs are, then he either ignores me completely and just starts talking about something else, or he talks over me, or he'll tell me, like, oh, you're such a strong, independent woman. You don't really need me, and you can handle this by yourself, and you're going to be fine. Just believe in yourself, that kind of thing. or he comes up with excuses why he's not able to help me, or he'll tell me that I just wasn't clear enough and he didn't understand that I was asking for help. So he always has a reason why he shouldn't help me, or why my feelings don't matter, or why I don't need to receive his attention or his help or whatever.
It sounds
And
super
that,
manipulative.
yeah, and that really feeds into the whole feedback loop. Oh, I'm not good enough. I need to work harder. I'm not deserving of love.
Yeah.
So,
And it also, and it goes a little, and you're right, it's the feedback loop. It reiterates what you already feel about yourself. And so
mhm,
part of that is that trauma bonding, that it's an addiction. So the
mhm,
more he says you're not good enough to be my girlfriend, the more you're like, let me show you how good I can be at being your girlfriend. And it's because you are successful and you're used to figuring things out, your mind is saying to yourself, okay, if I can just show him that I can be a good girlfriend, then he's going to become the person I want him to be.
exactly. I just need to show him that he will never receive this amount of love
From
from
anyone else.
anyone else.
Yep.
Then he will finally love me back, and the coin will drop and everything will be perfect.
Now, and you're right. And that's in that it becomes, and the more we feed into it, the more the addiction strengthens. So when we
Exactly.
say we want to be friends with our exes, especially in this kind of situation, would you allow this from one of your girlfriends?
It depends on the situation, because I'm still friends with other exes as well, but it's more like we see each other like once a year or something to catch up, and oh, how's the wife, how's the kids, that kind of thing. So it's a completely different situation. This feels much more toxic and much more manipulative.
But what I mean is, if you had one of your girlfriends, so what happens a lot of times too is that we know that we would never let our friends, just our regular friends, we would never let them speak to us that way. I never had friends that treated me or spoke to me as badly as my relationships spoke to me and treated me. But I kept showing up to these toxic people, and I would have cut them off if it was somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens, and this is a big question, but what would happen if you decided to stop communication with him?
Right now, I told him that I was thinking about whether I still want this friendship to continue or whether I want to break completely. And every day he's been texting me and he's like, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help? Do you want me to come by? And like really pressuring me. And I've said I'm still thinking about it. And right now I'm thinking I should just stop it altogether, stop the business, stop everything, because he's never going to change. And even if I'm just business partners with him, there's always going to be a time where he's going to be like, oh, I need this from you. Please do this for me. And I thought about it, and actually, doing these things for me gives me a dopamine hit. So I enjoy being that person and doing all these things for him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm never getting anything in return. The only thing I get in return is his gratitude, and he feels that should be sufficient. And I'm like, but I want to be you. I want someone in my life that treats me the way I treat you. And why can't I be that person? Why
Because
am
you
I always the one giving?
there's so many things to in that what you just said. So number one, you can't be that person. So you're not going to get that from somebody else because you're with a taker. You're not with a giver. And so
Mhm.
every time you're with these people that are takers, they're going to keep taking until you're bone dry, until you bleed out, because you keep giving. There's no boundaries there. So when you say, hey, I'm not sure if I should be with you, he's going to do exactly what a narcissist does and try to do all the things to manipulate you to stay. And then if you stay, he's going to go back to doing what he was doing. And then he's not going to respect you because you stayed around, because he knows that what he's doing is fucked up. So oh, I can do whatever I want because
Mhm.
she keeps coming back. Every time I call, she's there. He needs to find other people to reach out to that are not you. Now, the part of you that wants to be the savior, that's because, yeah, you get that dopamine hit, But that is also not a healthy relationship. If you are the one, if you want to be the savior, be that person that helps other people for your business, for volunteer activities, not for your relationship. For relationships, that's where we need to have, where we're not looking for the potential in someone, we're looking for who they are, and then we're looking to see how they are with us. So we need to be able to be givers, which is great, but you also need to be a receiver. And right
Mm-hmm.
now, you're the receiving part, you're not used to the receiving part because you haven't gotten it. You're used to being the giver. But you're also probably, would be my guess, is that this also avoids you dealing with some of the bigger things that are under the surface, maybe not feeling good enough, not feeling like you're worthy, not feeling like you're going to have a good relationship. This avoids you dealing with all those big feelings for yourself because you can focus all of the attention on how ridiculous this drama is with this ex-boyfriend. So
Exactly.
you get to avoid. And so
Mm-hmm.
he is allowing you to feel good about yourself for doing these good things for him, but you're also able to avoid some of the bigger feelings because you're focused on his issues instead of your own.
That is true.
So there's some stuff there, but the good thing is that you don't have to stay stuck here.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so much possibility in creating something different. I want you to just put yourself in a place. Imagine what it would be like to be in a relationship with another giver, with someone else who gave as much as you gave. And
Mm-hmm.
how would that be? How would that be for your business? How would that be for making money? How would that be for your personal life? How would that be for all the things that you want for yourself? Would you be doing fun things instead of spending your time getting him, picking him up from the hospital or driving him there, having someone else to come and be the support system that you've been for everybody else?
On the one hand, that would be really nice, and that's something that I long for. But at the same time, it makes me feel guilty, and it makes me feel overwhelmed if someone does too much for me.
Because you're not used to it. And a lot,
Yes.
and that's again, that's we have to heal that part of us because if we are deserving of someone stepping up to the plate for us,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to be the ones constantly giving. And that's a big thing too, is that I've shared this before, but when I was dating a few guys at the same time, because I wasn't even sure I wanted to be in a relationship again. And one of the guys had said to me, I was going with my now husband, I was going to meet him in New York City. And the other guy that I was seeing also, he was like, if he really likes you, he's going to offer to drive you home. And I'm like, he lives the opposite direction. That's going to be like 3 hours for him. And I'm like strong, independent woman. I don't need him. I'm going to take the train. I'm going to do because I could. All those things were easy, and I didn't want to put him out. And the other guy
Exactly.
said to me, but I would want to spend that extra time with you. Someone who really likes you is going to want to go above and beyond and go extra, and you have to let him do that in order for it to see if he's actually really that into you. And so I said, okay, we'll see. So I went on the date with my now husband, and the first thing he said is, "Oh, can I drive you home?" And my immediate thing was, no, I can take the train. But I thought about it and I said, okay, you know what? Sure. I'll let you drive me home. And he did. And we had a great conversation. We had a wonderful time going back together. He didn't care about driving like literally 3 hours the other direction to get to where he was going. But that's the kind of people you want to show up for you because that's something you
Yes.
should do for them. You would do that for them. So why do we
Oh,
not?
yes, I would.
Why do we think that we don't get to have that also? It's okay to have someone take care of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah. So that's the worthiness. So the big things I think for you is really working on the worthiness. Look at how you're avoiding things in your life. What are those big underlying feelings? The feeling good enough, feeling like it's possible to create something healthy, becoming better at receiving those
Mm-hmm.
good things. Because if we don't get better at receiving, we're going to keep ending up with toxic people because we're going to
Yeah.
keep ending up with the takers as opposed to the givers. We want to
Mm-hmm.
find, and it's a beautiful thing when you have two givers that get together or so you're both helping each other out. It's a beautiful reciprocal relationship. But what happens with a lot of us is when we have these wounds that we haven't healed, when we don't have healthy boundaries and we don't put ourselves in high regards, then we end up with these people that take advantage of those things about us. And then they use that to manipulate to get what they want. And then we feel empty.
The only thing is, how can you tell the difference from someone who is genuinely giving and someone who's love bombing?
That's a good question. So love bombing would be more of the fact of also too, this is over time. So if somebody in the first month is just overdoing it, where they're just like,
Mhm.
you're the most amazing person in the world. I've never seen it. I never met anyone like you. We should move in together. That would be more like love bombing as
Yeah,
opposed
that was
to
my
somebody,
ex.
yeah, as opposed to a healthier person that was just like, if you say, hey, I'm not really comfortable having a sleepover yet. And they're like, okay, totally respect that. That's totally fine. When you're ready, I would love for that to happen. Or having these open conversations and being open to hear what you have to say without pushing what their wants and needs are on you, being open to what you're saying as well. So I think it's the intention of it. It's the way that they do it. Because the love bombing is the typical thing of narcissists. We get scared of that. Oh, they're giving me too much. This is offering to drive someone somewhere is not love bombing. That's like a normal thing that we should just expect in a relationship. Having somebody, this is another thing too. I don't know if for you, for me, it used to be, I didn't want to go on a date and have someone pay for me because I felt like that was the wrong thing to do. But I counsel my clients that at the least the first few dates, they should always pay, because it's not that you can't afford it. It's that they are having the honor of spending time with you, and therefore they should automatically be stepping up. If they're automatically thinking that you're paying for half of it or whatever, that's already someone that I'm not interested in having more dates with, because we're here to have a relationship, and for you are taking care of me just like I'm going to take care of you. But if it doesn't start out by him, men want to be the ones that are taking care of a healthy man. They want to be able to take care of you too. You've got to allow them to open the doors. Again, not that we can't do it, but they should still be stepping up in those kinds of ways of taking care of you and showing you and being respectful of what your boundaries are.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, the only time when I pay is when I feel I'm having a horrible time and I just want to get out of there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I will never see you again.
Yes. Let me just go by the bar and pay for this so I can sneak out and I can just say, it's taken care of. It was good seeing you. Bye.
Nice life. But then we also have to continue that as well, is that we don't have to keep proving our worth to the person that we're in a partnership with. It should be, when sometimes it's someone is at 90% giving, the other one's at 10% giving because they're just emotionally overwhelmed. But it shouldn't always be 90-10. Sometimes it's
Yes.
switch. Sometimes it's changes like that. And that is healthy as well. But if you're noticing that you're always the one stepping up, you're always the one saving, as much as that might help the part of you that feels good about helping people,
Yeah.
that's not good when it comes to a relationship. You're not here to be the like volunteering for like puppies.
Exactly.
You don't
Yeah.
want a puppy. You don't want to train. You have to find someone who's also looking to step up and take care of you as much as you're taking care of them.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. This was wonderful. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Maybe
Oh, yeah.
some tidbits that stuck out for you. I know
Oh,
when we said in the beginning, you have a business. So tell us about your business and how we can find your business and support you.
yeah, I organize guided tours in Japan. So I have this network of guides spread out over Japan. All major cities, we guided tours, private guided tours. So my website is www.tokyotours.nl. And Tokyo is spelled the Dutch way. So not with the Y, but with the I. So Tokyo with the I, tours.nl.
My sister lives in Japan.
Oh, wow. Where?
Yeah, I'm going to visit at some point, I promise. So when I do, I'll have to give you a call, and I'm sure she knows some spots. But with you being the tour guide, I'm sure you've got some inns somewhere that she might not know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'd love to give you some tips.
Yeah, I would love that. All right, so what would you like to leave us with before we say goodbye?
To not keep falling for the same bullshit, because as soon as you want to step out, the taker is going to do everything, the narcissist or the taker, to drag you back in and to convince you and to gaslight you into thinking that you're crazy and you're stupid for leaving this relationship. Just stick to your guns and choose you.
I love it. I love it. That's perfectly said, and that's so true. Nikki, I appreciate you so much coming and hanging out with us today. I think this is going to be really beneficial for everyone who is listening, for everyone who let us know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to be able to hear your perspective and what maybe some of the things that really stand out for you. And as always, never forget, you are way stronger than you realize. See you next episode.